Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. I'm Randy Zellea from backsportspage.com. And with us, we are doing things a little different. We are doing a little bit of a round table with Pete Rosado from We Are Wrestling and Backsports Page's own Andrew Fiume. He's the producer of this wonderful program, our social media director. That's right, confessions from a female wrestling fan herself. There's Alyssa. And we are here, guys. It's WrestleMania week. Before we jump into WrestleMania and AEW and all of our usual topics, Pete, welcome, brother. We Are Wrestling. We were there for the last show in December. It was a hell of a time. Thanks for coming on with us, doing this tonight.
Oh man, thanks. Thank to all of you for being a part of. It was all a dream back in December, and I know people have been, wondering, hey, when are you guys coming back? When are you guys coming back? And we just kind of needed some time to rest and recharge. As anyone knows who was there as part of our first show back in August of last year, the company itself and just everything that we're about it is dedicated to my mom, who passed away right before the first show happened. So especially with the holidays coming around right around December and January and all that entailed, kind of need to take a little bit of a mental health break. But we also needed to just get prepped because we knew that after what happened in December, we really needed to come with some fire. So yeah, May 22nd, for people who have not already seen the drop, May 22nd, we are coming back with One Step Closer. And I cannot wait to have all y'all back in attendance for One Step Closer. It's going to be a dope night, especially when Back Sports Page and We Are Wrestling gets together.
And now that, I guess the big question is going to be, is Andrew Fiume going to be on camera? Or is
so let me tell you something. Andrew, the real MVP. Allowed to pull back the curtain a little bit. There was a bit of a mix-up with one of our camera people who was supposed to be there, but things got mixed up in transit and stuff, and they weren't able to get there. And so we were short a camera person. And in true producer fashion and in true, we're going to figure out a way to get things done mode, Andrew stepped up and was a cameraman for the night and helped get down all the great video night, and it was incredible to have that happen, a real MVP type moment. I'm hoping as best as possible to give Andrew the night off and hope that he can just enjoy himself at the next show. But my hat is off to Andrew and the work that he pulled in, because he definitely could have been like, dude, I'm just here to enjoy the show.
I was, but the show must go on, so I had to step up, and I don't mind it. I do enjoy shooting wrestling.
Having a lot of fun though, so
I did. Yeah,
and I think what I liked about the first show and the second show, it was very consistent with the action. And the hard part for Pete is timing that show out, because especially when you're behind the broadcast booth, is just making sure everything's running smooth when in reality you're sitting there just like, oh man, I hope they remember to do this. Oh man, I hope they don't forget to do that. So it's definitely a tough thing.
Everything.
Yeah, definitely a tough thing. But hey guys, before we jump into WrestleMania, and I have a couple questions for you guys about WrestleMania, both this year and the past. I don't want to totally ignore the efforts and time that AEW has put into their product, especially last night's show. Andrew, I know you probably didn't have an opportunity to view it like you wanted to. But I will tell you, one of my biggest complaints about AEW, and you guys can jump in if you think that I'm wrong on this, but it's the continuity from where their stories are going. I guess maybe it's because they only have 4 pay-per-views a year and they have bigger episodes of Dynamite and Rampage. So they have some bigger matches on free TV, which was a bad decision at the time from WCW. Having like the St. Patrick's Day Slam and having Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker in a steel cage. Some of the other big matches they've had on free TV over the last few months, like Bryan Danielson and Adam Page on free TV, Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson on free TV. Those are pay-per-view quality matches. Again, understanding that they don't have a pay-per-view every month like WWE. Does this worry you guys about A, continuity of storyline, and B, giving away the house on free television? Pete, we'll start with you.
Yes and no, and I lean more towards the no, simply because, as you said, they only have 4 pay-per-views a year, which makes the fact that you have to make sure that the television product in between those live event, those pay-per-view events are high quality. And especially when you're talking about the kind of programming that AEW has, the fan base that they have, this is a fan base that literally lives on that PWG, Ring of Honor, New Japan kind of style, that indie fan, and they want to see those big matches. And I also think it's not that bad because they are still very young as a company, right? You want to make sure that you're getting the people to tune in, right? And when you're talking about WWE has the luxury of being the WWE, right? You don't have to be a wrestling fan. You don't have to watch wrestling every week. You know about or of the WWE for some reason or another. And you probably know somebody that either has been on the recent WWE product or is on the WWE product. That may not necessarily be the case for AEW. And so when you're trying to get that footing, when you're trying to get people who are clicking around to just stop and watch your product, or trying to get those WWE fans who may still be a little leery about watching AEW to turn over, you do want to give them a reason to tune in. You want to give your networks a reason to say, hey, this is something to keep on television, especially considering they have multiple shows right now. They have Rampage, they have Dynamite, you still have Dark and Dark Elevation on YouTube and things like that. And you're going to want to start pulling things in. They have a large roster. You got to get these matches off. It's bad enough the pay-per-views are 4.5, 17 days long, right? But I'm not so mad at it because that's also what made the WWE so great back in the day. They would have every once in a while that big time TV match, and you'd have that really out of left field title change on free television. Like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Yeah.
I missed that. I could see that on TV. Not everybody, like today's audience, everybody can watch pay-per-view. Everybody can watch a stream. Everybody's on Bleacher Report or Fight or this or that. Getting people to tune in to your cable product is a different thing. You have to give them a reason to tune in with 7,000 channels right now, right? And so I'm not so mad at them for giving away some of these matches, but there's going to come a time where you're not going to be able to do it as often as they do it now.
Andrew, you want to chime in?
I think the fact that AEW has all of these 4 programming shows, they're able to split their talent across it pretty evenly. I think that makes AEW what makes it unique, and the fact that you don't have to wait for a pay-per-view, for these big matches, because that drove me crazy when I was a younger wrestling fan of WWE, because I would watch Raw and I'd watch SmackDown religiously, and then I would never really see the payoff matches because they were always on pay-per-view. And it was really I'm sure if I just, it was like, hey, can I order this pay-per-view, mom and dad? They'd be like, yeah, sure, fine. But, I was like a 12, 13-year-old kid, and plus, I had a bedtime too. So I'd only be able to stay up till 9:30 or 10 o'clock. So it is kind of cool that AEW, like you said, Pete, is catering really, really to the independent fan, and is really, really willing to cater to the wrestling fan to just give away these, awesome that pay-per-view quality matches and confrontations just on free television because they can and they want to. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah. And then listen, I don't know if you wanted to chime in on this one or not.
Oh, I get to talk? Well, for me, like Andrew said, all excited. Yeah. At my house, my whole family was into wrestling for a while. So we used to watch Raw every Monday, SmackDown, whether it was on Thursday or Friday, whatever, it always changed. But we'd always do pay-per-view parties. Whenever there was a pay-per-view, all our friends were at our house. We'd watch them. It was great. But with AEW, I kind of like that they have big matches on their regular viewing, because after a while it's you don't want to always wait for a pay-per-view. And I like that they only do 4 pay-per-views a year. So you're not like, okay, next month it's going to be what? What are they going to do? What's the card going to be? What big matches are they going to have? Like AEW is like, here's what's going on. And it could be a regular match or it could be a really big match. You don't really know unless you watch it.
Yeah,
so I kind of like that they don't have it strictly where it's like their big matches are their pay-per-views. They'll throw in like a really great match here or there that's not necessarily like you got to pay for it to watch it.
And it gives you a reason
interested.
To tune in.
It gives you a reason to tune in. It also gives you a reason to also watch the pay-per-view. And one of the things that like I'm very, very spoiled with, because again, I think I'm the oldest one on the call. I'm 42 years old. I'm a 42-year-old. Yeah, I'm a 42-year-old man who can watch. I remember when Hogan was on top, and you couldn't beat Hogan. Flair. We're gonna do the Dusty finish for tonight, where Flair looks like he's just about to lose, but the time runs out. He just makes it. He just makes it out of Puerto Rico without getting stabbed. It's one of those things. There's rioting because Flair didn't lose to Carlos Colon, and it's one of those things where, I'm very old school. So like when I go back and watch the network, and you watch what's the current product on TV, and like as we're leading into WrestleMania. I was just saying to Alyssa before, I'm not really overly excited. I feel like I'm watching WrestleMania because I'm required to watch WrestleMania as a wrestling fan.
That's pretty much why I'm doing it. I think too. I have no interest in it, but I'm still gonna watch it.
I'm one of the biggest Stone Cold fans ever. I'm not excited to see him this weekend. I'm not excited, because originally they said they were going to have a match, but then Austin didn't want to have a match because he didn't want to put Kevin Owens over. Then they were talking about saying it's just gonna be a confrontation, but they're saying he's in great shape, so it might turn into something more. And now it's supposed to close WrestleMania night 1. And by the way, for those who don't know, the reason why they're doing a 2-night WrestleMania, because WrestleMania 35 at the Meadowlands was 12 hours long. That's why they're doing it. So,
but also double revenue doesn't hurt.
No,
also,
true.
All of those things don't hurt. And listen, I was there watching Hogan on top, and I was in those rooms, right? Just like you, Randy. Well, hey, baby, we're going to do tonight. Okay, we're going to have Flair. Let's go 60 minutes. And, we're going to have just barely lose the title, baby. We're not going to go all the way. I want to see how these fans react, baby. I was there, when those things, but
I think we all do a Dusty impression, by the way. That's right, baby. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, the second most recognizable personality in the sports world today. That's right. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
That's right. I made Stone Cold Steve Austin a household name. But it's at the end of the day, you also have to. And listen, I'm not gonna sit here and I don't want to sound like one of these AEW fans on the internet. I'm like, yeah, the ratings. But AEW doesn't have the greatest ratings. WWE doesn't have the greatest ratings. Also, it's the year 2022. Most people are not watching live television at home anymore when it's on TV. So let's just get away from the ratings battle. But I say that to say, hey, there's a reason for me to want to turn on a match on AEW, right? I don't necessarily want to see all the time things that are going on with Raw, or I don't want to see things that are going on with SmackDown all the time, but I do want to tune in and see, oh my God, this is AEW match that I'll tune in just to watch that match. And sometimes there have been episodes of Dynamite where I'm just tuning in to watch the main event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with just reading the results for Raw or SmackDown, but every once in a while, I'm like, I gotta watch AEW.
Yeah, YouTube highlights.
Yeah,
YouTube highlights, keeping me interested, keeping me in the loop with WWE for like the past year and a half.
Yeah, I haven't watched a Raw or SmackDown. I can't tell you in how long. I usually just like watch a pay-per-view here or there, or just read up online about like what's going on. I'll hear something somewhere and I'll be like, all right, let me go read what's happening with WWE or NXT or whatever, which I heard is not great anymore because Vince took it over or something from Triple H, or I don't even know.
Yeah, and what's funny too is I go on. I'm not ashamed to announce what wrestling boards I get my news from. Like I go to 411 Wrestling, or if I go to wrestlinginc.com, And someone posted an article about the ratings, and every once in a while I read the comments, and I'll just get that seeing red moment where you're just like, I gotta comment on this. And I made a comment because someone made a comment about the ratings on how WWE was doing a better job than AEW, but AEW was winning the key demographic. I said, this isn't 1989. Sorry, this isn't 1998 or 1999 anymore, where we really have to be concerned about the wrestling ratings, especially with all the different platforms we're on. Like, I'll sometimes watch, if I'm in the car, I'll put on AEW on my phone and put it on my little car thing, so it'll be on, so I can at least keep up with what's going on.
Right.
I think as far as the ratings are concerned, the ratings were important back during the Monday Night War.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore. Like, no one, they're just not as important.
Well, not only that, but when Impact went head to head with WWE back in 2010, there was that little span, a couple of weeks where they did. People don't realize also we had like TiVo or, on demand, and you can record things on your television, and you can't
DVR.
Yeah, DVR. You really couldn't account for that. And you didn't have that back during the Monday Night Wars. I bet you if you had that, the numbers would look a lot different.
Yeah,
I agree.
For sure.
So, and I think that's something that we have to look at. Real quick, I want to transition because I don't want to keep you guys for 2 nights like WrestleMania will be. But I don't want to keep you guys too long. But let's really quickly just discuss some of the different headlines for WrestleMania this year. It was announced that Bayley, Asuka, Shane McMahon, and a few other stars were bought in for the weekend. And of course, there's that lingering Cody Rhodes rumor. And there's also some steam to the rumor that the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, might be in town as well. So I ask you guys, one, what would be the biggest shocks for you if seeing a return or a debut? We'll start with Alyssa this time around. What would surprise you this weekend with WrestleMania as far as either a return or a surprise appearance?
As much as I hate to say it because I hate the character, I would kind of want to see Wyatt come back. I hated the character, but at least they had a good like story with it. Like, everybody would go crazy over his character, and I thought like that was really cool, and I liked the little Firefly Funhouse thing. But they gave it to they gave it to like Alexa Bliss, and she made it like her own thing. But I think like, I don't know, something about that character, like, he was great to just not like him. He was one of those like characters you love to hate, but you still love him. Like, so I think seeing him come back would be good for them, because I think it would draw a lot of people back. Be like losing interest and be like, oh great, they brought him back, because I know a lot of people were upset when he left.
Yeah.
And
a smart play for them to have him come back.
Yeah, and I think, and not for nothing, there would be a lot of intrigue if he was the guy with Seth Rollins. That would be fun. That would cause a real stir if they decided to do that. Andrew, how about you?
That would be fun. Yeah, everyone is having the grand gesture that Cody Rhodes is going to come back, but I actually think maybe he'd be more inclined for a Raw after WrestleMania return. Seeing Bray Wyatt return to face Seth Rollins would be amazing. My hopes were up for a little bit that maybe Alexa Bliss would return to in-ring action in some capacity, but she already said that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah, they all say that, and then they pop up anyway.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's Mania, so you really
That's
never
the thing.
know.
Like, she could just be saying that just so you don't expect her to pop up, and then she'd be like, "Just kidding, here I am."
Yeah, maybe she tags with someone, and the women's tag team championship match becomes a fatal 5-way or 5-team match. Yeah, something like that. More people in the tag match. But I would really like to see, the end of night one. Kevin Owens absolutely destroy Stone Cold Steve Austin and become like the new badass character. Like, he's the only guy right now, in the WWE besides Sami Zayn for me that really, like, I really buy into what they're saying, and I really believe when they speak words, like, I believe that anything that comes out
like his character, whatever.
His whole persona, like his big like fight Owens fight, that like Canadian brute force, like he's some grit and sandpaper guy. Like, I can never get behind Seth Rollins just because I can never buy into what he's saying on
I couldn't get behind Seth Rollins when he was part of Shield.
Yeah,
I've just
so
never been a Seth Rollins fan.
like it doesn't even like he is a very talented wrestler and performer. And then like, I do enjoy seeing his matches when I do end up tuning in for them. But like really, Kevin Owens is just one of those guys for me that's just like when he speaks on the mic, I'm like, okay, this guy really, really is like he means what he says.
Yeah.
And like, if he ends
He
up
was
just
born for this. Like,
yeah, if he ends up just, he has Steve Austin on his segment and, the two of them butt heads, which is probably more than likely going to happen. And KO just beats the living hell out of him. I would be like, yeah, that's exactly what should happen,
Yeah, he's from Canada, so it's one of those
Yeah.
things where being able to there's just something more believable about like the guys from Canada, whether it was the Hart family.
don't knock us Canadians.
The Canadians.
Nux.
Yeah.
The
They
Canucks.
have the reputation for being like overly nice, but man, like they can put the
Thank
beat
you.
down when they want to. Yeah.
What about you, Mr.
Sorry, don't
Rosado?
mess with me. Hit us
You
with
know,
your knowledge, sir.
I like everyone else am looking forward to, and I didn't think about it until Andrew said it, and sitting here like booking the territory in my head, I'm like, crap. If Cody was actually going to be returning, because we still don't know it yet, albeit what the dirt sheets say left and right every day. Actually be the worst idea in the world. I kind of feel like they've dug themselves into this hole where it's like if he doesn't show up at Mania, when he does show up, it's going to be super underwhelming. Like the fans are going to just crap all over it at this point because you've made them wait so long for it.
Yeah.
I've seen some. I did see something in a group that I'm a part of on social media that somebody said something that I thought was actually really, really smart. Where to really heighten it, have Vince come out and troll the audience, him come out, play Undertaker's music, and then cut the music. And then have them play like Ambrose's music and cut the music. Have them play like somebody else's music, cut the music again, and then have it be like Cody's music finally as the last one. To really be, and the WWE does really like to build to those moments, and that would be really cool. I'd love to see Bayley and Asuka come back simply because I miss them. I miss seeing them on my television. I would love to see them finally come back, though I don't know where they necessarily fit in on the WrestleMania card as it is right now. I am very interested to see Austin and Owens because if anybody is going to get this, Owens deserves it. I mean, a lot of people don't give Owens the credit that I think he should get for really helping carry SmackDown during the pandemic era when they were in the Thunderdome. His matches with Reigns were incredible. And that story that they told was really, really great. He's a bump machine. So, he's going to sell his butt off for Austin. He's going to make Austin look like $1 million, which anybody who's been away from the ring for as long as Austin has, that's his main gripe. And he's talked about it a million times. And I come back and give the people what they expect to see from me. And there's very few people, I think, and Owens is one of them, that can help Austin do that. It's not going to be a match. It's going to be probably a segment turned into a quasi match, but it's going to be fun to see. I am very interested, though, in seeing Styles and Edge.
Yep.
That, to me, is where my
might steal
money
the
is.
show.
Yeah, to me, that's where
Andrew's
my money
looking
is.
real
I can't
excited
wait
over
for
there.
All right.
Andrew's looking real excited over there. Talk to us. Andrew. Why are you looking forward to it?
Everyone wants to talk about how Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, they're Mr. WrestleManias. Throw it out the window. Really, no one has had better matches, better performances at WrestleMania than Adam Copeland. He is one of the best wrestlers, best performers in the past 30 years, and I will stand by that with an exclamation point and an axe any day of the week.
Great. He is great.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I think Asuka and Bailey are Raw and SmackDowns after WrestleMania type of appearances. I think that's the best time to see them. I would obviously it's heavy favorite that it's Cody, and Vince loves the idea of giving the AEW presentation. But what I think, like my biggest thing with Cody Rhodes coming into WWE right now, is I really think that the shock value lost. It was lost about a month and a half ago. I
Yeah,
think
it's all gone.
I think if they would have done this the right way, and Andrew, you've heard me say it on the show before, I would have had it. He announced on a Tuesday that he was leaving AEW. That following Monday or Friday, he should have been on Raw or SmackDown.
Agreed.
I think the
Yeah,
impact.
I'm with you on that one.
The impact of an AEW guy, not only that, an AEW EVP showing up on Raw would have been amazing. Now this has cooled off so much where I think it's going to affect where Cody Rhodes is on the card. He could have came in and said, being an AEW guy, come right in, and you could have had 3 months of stories with wrestlers. Now it's really like, all right, well, he was last seen in AEW 3 months ago. Okay. But that doesn't have the same effect of him being on TV the week before. And now he's on
Rick Rude. It's that Rick Rude effect.
Yeah.
Like being on the taped Raw on the live Nitro. I mean, listen, I honestly had my hopes way up when they had Raw from Jacksonville. Like, to me, that was the moment. If you weren't going to have them on TV immediately after the whole thing, Raw in Jacksonville was the night to have it, because that probably would have been one of the bigger pops you would have gotten. An AEW guy, a former AEW guy, coming back to the WWE, or just coming to the WWE in Jacksonville, which is essentially the home of AEW. It would have been the big thing. But I think, even have him show up I would have gone the extra mile having him show up on a SmackDown right before Rampage.
Yeah.
Like, because Rampage goes right after SmackDown, you could have seen him showing up on a SmackDown. I do agree with you, Randy, though. I will say that, I think what also, I don't want to get into an AEW WWE thing, but like, I will say the one thing that I like that AEW seems to do a lot better than WWE is that they keep their ish under wraps.
Yeah.
And granted, there's probably a lot of reasons for it. A lot of people are very keen on the idea, the dirt sheets are paid off by AEW, whatever. You know what? If that's what you got to do it. Because AEW, I will say, I am always more intrigued when they say, we've got somebody coming in. Now, not so much as I did earlier, because now with the amount of releases of talent that's in the free agent pool, you can kind of throw a dart at the wall and figure you're going to get it right. But especially in the beginning, when they were just bringing talent in, you did not know who it was. It was very rare. I think the Christian reveal was like the first one that kind of like there were rumblings about like it's going to be Christian. But that was like really the only one. Even last night on Dynamite, there wasn't a lot of talk on the internet of it's going to be Tony Storm.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, like, last night, Tony Storm popped in for that qualification match.
I'm going to throw something to that AEW, that's going to go along with it, but it's on a totally different span. And CM Punk said this was one of the reasons why he came to AEW, is the way the AEW handled the Brody Lee situation. Up until he passed away, nobody on the internet, nobody knew on how sick he was. Nobody knew, but it was a month and a half long, or a couple months illness. And Amanda came in front of the whole AEW roster, said, if this gets leaked out, we're going to find out who did it. Because she was very hesitant. She didn't put a lot of trust in the people in the wrestling business, and nobody knew until he passed on how bad it was. And then when you listen to the podcast that she did to talk about the situation with her husband, you listen to her, and she talked about on how this was the first time that she was able to actually trust a wrestling organization. That says
That says a lot.
That says a
Like,
lot that everybody in that
Speaks
company,
volumes right there.
everybody in that company kept that quiet, which is absolutely amazing. So just going along with that, Pete, and just going along with some of the other things that was said here, I would love to see the Fiend or Bray Wyatt come in and be the opponent for Seth Rollins. I actually, what you said before, you didn't even like the Shield Seth Rollins. The character he was doing when he was going against Roman Reigns, it was almost like a Joker character. Like
I didn't even like that, and I'm a huge Joker Harley Quinn fan. You see the Harley Quinn poster behind me.
I thought he did okay.
I didn't even like that.
I thought it was okay. I thought, look, the simple fact of the matter is this is something that when we had Vince Russo on the show, and Andrew, you listened to that interview too, it got really complicated, but Vince had to make it more complicated than he had to, because when Vince Russo was there, it was Vince, Ed Ferrara, Bruce Pritchard, and McMahon himself. And those were the guys who were putting the show together. When Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo took a hike, Vince had to have security for himself, so he had to get a bunch of writers. But then it got a little more complicated. Well, we're bringing comedy writers in from Conan O'Brien. We're going to bring TV writers. You have people who don't understand the business, writing television for you. Right. And I think that's the major problem that they are having.
Bless you.
Now.
Excuse me.
Bless you, young
Thank
man. Just to finish my thought real quick on what other surprise I think there might be. I think in the main event for Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, I think Paul Heyman's going to turn on Roman Reigns and go back to Brock Lesnar. And the explanation.
You think he's just going to go back and forth?
I think he's going to go back to Brock and say somebody had to take Roman down, and this is.
I'm sorry.
No. I think it's just going to come out saying Brock and I put this together because we had to take Roman down, and this was the only way we could have done it.
He plays both sides.
Him and then run back to him.
He plays both sides, so he always comes out on top.
I absolutely hate Paul Heyman. He's another one of those characters I love to hate. Like, he's just great at what he does, and I just hate him for it.
He's good. He is good.
That's the thing. Like, he's great on the mic. He's like, it just everything he does. You just like, he's this horrible character. He's so great at it that you're just like, this is good. Like,
yeah. I'll say this. This is the first time in probably a few years where I'm kind of excited to see Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar fight, just because they have put a lot into this storyline where it feels like there is actually like a lot on the line, and they're building it up.
Yeah, I heard they've been building it up really well, but people are really afraid of this final like delivery of it. Yeah. Like, everybody's saying the story's been great ever since it started, and they're building it up to this great thing, but then they just feel like when the match happens, it's going to be awful. And
if it's a 5-minute slugfest, I think it seems like
bell's not even going to ring. It's just going to brawl, and that's it.
You don't pay Brock by the hour, baby. That's not how it works. You don't pay Brock by the hour. Minute. Yeah. Let's this has been a cool discussion. Let's sort of wrap it up a little bit here. Let's go around. I'm going to ask you guys, and because this is going to take a few minutes. If you had to give me what's more impactful, or your favorite 5 WrestleMania matches, or your 5 WrestleMania moments? Because moments and matches are 2 totally different things. Because moments are those little 5 seconds, like, oh my Lord. And then those are the things that get put into these video packages, like the Hogan Andre slam. The Hogan Andre match was not good, but the stare down in the beginning and the slam, those 2 moments are historic.
That's why people remember the match, right? That's why people remember the match. You remember the match because of the moments, right? Because there's some fantastic matches over the years, and even not even being on pay-per-view or being on a WrestleMania. There's those definements that make the matches stick out in your mind. Listen, unless you're a wrestling historian that is going to sit here and probably guys like Cornette and Apter and all those guys can sit down and tell me hold for hold, move for move, what happened in Steamboat Savage, can sit there and tell me what happened, move for move, hold for hold. But most people remember maybe the beginning of a match and the finish or the moment of the match. For example, one of my favorite moments, and it's why it's one of my favorite matches, is Taker and Flair at Mania, and it's not because of the match. It's simply because
Bloody
Arn
Taker.
got back in the ring and dropped the spine buster on Taker. And I sit here to this day legitimately saying, I thought that was the finish. I thought that was going to be it because nobody's kicking out the Anderson spine buster. So it's those moments that build it for you because most people aren't remembering the whole match.
That's me. I don't like. I'm one of those people who remembers like moments. I can't even tell you like what pay-per-view or what, but just certain matches. I'm like, there was like a cage match where Big Show fell through the ring and crawled out the bottom and won because he
That was
escaped
against
the cage.
JBL and No Way Out. They had the barbed
You
wire.
remember
at
that
the
stuff, but
top.
I don't remember that
Yeah.
stuff.
Well-
I just remember Big Show falling through the ring and crawling out, and they'd be like, Big Show wins, and they're like, wait, no, how? And he's like, well, he crawled out the bottom.
To this day, how many people, how many wrestling fans to this day probably are still misremember and don't realize that Foley Taker wasn't the main event.
No,
Right?
that's
Like-
true too. Yeah.
Like most people, unless you are a person, are not going to remember, oh, wait, Austin Kane was the main event.
Event,
that
but
pay-per-view.
because
Well-
there was so much more to the other match, that's what
You-
people remember.
It
You could-
seemed like nothing else mattered after that moment. It seemed like.
You could say the
the
same thing.
moments that
You could say the same thing about Hogan Rock. You would think that was the main event of that WrestleMania, but it was Jericho Triple H. And you could say the same thing about Austin Bret Hart, and it was the main event was Sid and Undertaker.
Right.
But if you said to me, like, Randy, what's your favorite WrestleMania match of all time? I can immediately say Austin Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13, because from top to bottom, that match was all action from the get go. And that match, when I go back and watch it back, I can watch the whole thing without fast forwarding anything because I know I love that match so much. It's definitely my number one WrestleMania match of all time. There's certain matches that I know that I love. I'll end up watching going, let's fast forward through this a little bit. That's fine. So when I say top five, so Pete, so let's do it with the top five matches then, because you say the moments of the match. Pete, what's your top five WrestleMania matches? I'll give you one honorable mention too, by the way.
Okay, so and on the spot here, I'm probably gonna misremember a couple of things. And this is in no specific order. Shawn and Flair, WrestleMania 24. I don't know how that can't be on many people's top fives. It was an incredible match. The motion of it, the story going into it, and to me, that really takes that match over the edge. You can say what you want about the action in that match, but that match goes over the edge for me there at WrestleMania 24. I will always sit here and say that Savage Steamboat at WrestleMania is a top five match without question. I can sit here in 2022 and watch that match and absolutely still love it from beginning to end. Simply because of how it ended, WrestleMania 31 with Rollins walking away with the WWE Championship, cashing in Money in the Bank, simply because of that moment and how it ended, to me was just everything. With that, I hate to say this, but this is a match that most people are going to get very mad at me for putting in my top five. But regardless of what you think about the people involved, WrestleMania 20, that triple threat match,
Yeah.
WWE Championship. Regardless of what you think about one of the men involved in that match, and I get it. That match is.
Are we allowed to say that person's name?
It is
No?
the what we'll do
It's
is
one of my favorites too, and I was like, I don't think we could say the name.
That's another burly Canadian.
Yeah.
I'll put a picture that I found online of the man we're not allowed to mention. They said WWE's erasing history a little too much, and they show the magazine cover of Eddie Guerrero holding up Eddie Guerrero's hand after the show.
No, I miss Eddie Guerrero so much. He was one of my favorites.
And then
yeah.
Because you said honorable mention, I'm going to be able to say these last two. So number 5, I'm obviously going to say WrestleMania 25, match 1 between Taker and Shawn. I think that first match was the best of their series. Though the emotion going into Shawn's career match, obviously a big thing. And then as an honorable mention, I'm going to go all the way back to WrestleMania 12, Shawn and Brett. Listen, 17 gets lauded by so many as the greatest Mania of all time from top to bottom. I think 18 gets overshadowed a bit, and people don't realize how great 18 was because of how great 17 was. And I think the same thing happens with WrestleMania 12.
Excuse me.
Bless you, Andrew.
Bless you.
Thank
I
you.
think a lot of people forget how great that match at Arrowhead Pond was. Because remember, you had none of the bigger names. Hogan was gone. Savage was gone, right? It's Taker Diesel. It's Warrior Triple H. You got the backlot brawl, and you've got just probably one of the best matches of all time in Shawn and Brett. And I know I'm missing a couple. I will say this. I'm going to throw in one extra. Deep in my heart, I will always, always love the gimmick battle royal from WrestleMania 17.
Oh, my Lord. I'm going to go last. I'm going to go Alyssa next. Let's see what you...
See, that's the thing. Like, I'm very impressed that you can remember what WrestleMania, what match. I can't do any of that. So I remember moments of things. I don't remember matches. So, like, I would have to go back and look at what matches have happened in what WrestleMania to tell you what my top WrestleMania moments are. Because I don't know. Like I said, there's that one match where we can't.
Yeah, Benoit. What? Chris Benoit. Fine, I said it.
Oh,
I said it.
Let's just
I'm probably going to get heat
it up
because I didn't mention. I will probably get heat after this because I did not mention Brett and Austin. That doesn't mean it's not one of my favorite matches, but I didn't want to go with what everybody always says.
Where Benoit's concerned, I mean, for whatever happened, you know, he was still a great athlete. I can't take that away from him, no matter the other things that happened. But I mean, I'm all for like the superstars. So like, we have Undertaker's matches. I usually enjoyed like going to WrestleMania to be like, is this person gonna break the streak? Definitely not happy about the person who did break the streak. We won't talk about that. But you know, I don't think I have like a. It depends on who was in it. But like I said, I remember moments of things. I don't really remember what matches happened when. Like, I don't know how you just sat there and was like, oh, WrestleMania, you know.
I'm the same way. I just...
WrestleMania, these people. And I'm like, like my best friend's little brother can do that. Like, to this day, when he was 6, he knew all the information about all the wrestlers. And we were all like, how do you remember that? Like 2 pay-per-views ago, this person said this, and then like 4 years ago, they were talking about this with this person. And like, I don't know how you guys remember all that. Do you have like
I'm a knowledge of useless information as well.
That's like,
and listen, there is a plethora of matches that I left out, B, that, you know, have happened at WrestleManias. So it's like, it's tough. But, and again, if you asked me 10 minutes from now to go over my top 5 Mania matches again, now I'm looking at Mania cards again, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah. I'd probably shuffle up that list.
Like, I'm for the moment. So like, I liked when they did the road to WrestleMania. I don't even remember what WrestleMania it was, but they were doing all those like goofy commercials where like Ric Flair was like, follow the champ. And they had like all these commercials from like different movies.
Oh, that was when they went
like,
Hollywood.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
WrestleMania went
Mania
Hollywood.
21.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
See, like, that's the kind of stuff that I remember. Not necessarily the matches or whatever, but just like things leading up to it, or just like those moments here and there that would really stick out to you. Like, nothing to do with WrestleMania. John Cena with his feud with JBL when he wrote JBL sucks on his limo, or JBL got drugged or whatever, and he's like, JBL stands for just beat lizards. Like, that's the stuff I remember. Don't ask me about matches. Ask me about the things that happen backstage. Like,
Yeah, I'll piggyback since we're kind of on the WrestleMania 21. We were talking about when WrestleMania goes Hollywood. I think it was 21.
I don't know that. Like,
yeah, when they had the first Money in the Bank ladder match,
Yes.
Edge won.
Yes.
Yeah, I
those
love
kinds
that
of
match.
matches.
Yeah. Oh, I love the Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, I'm not really too crazy about it because it just seemed to be like so overplayed and over gimmicky. But that first match where Edge won, it was a great match, and there were some great spots where I think it was it might have been Shelton Benjamin who ran up the ladder.
See,
That was
I remember
leading
that.
against another ladder.
Yep.
Yeah. Massive,
I loved that.
awesome, cool spot. Really cool spot. And then WrestleMania 32, I think it was, or 31, maybe 32. It was Charlotte, Sasha, and
32.
Becky Lynch. Yeah, 32. They were in the women's triple threat match. And that was one of the first Manias that I kind of watched getting back into wrestling again. And that match just stood out to me. Because it was really a masterclass, not even in like women's wrestling, but just in wrestling in general. Like the three of them tore the absolute house down in that place. And Charlotte does this massive like quadruple 800 turn flip rotation backflip from the top rope, and I'm like, oh my god! Like they just, they really left everything in the ring that night, and I was like, it's a shame that like someone has to lose this match.
Oh, we have a special guest in Pete's
over there.
Who's that?
That is Artemis. That's my my 3-year-old over here.
Wow.
Artemis.
Whenever I'm on the laptop, she's always just like, "Oh, so this means I get to be on the couch close to you now?"
Yeah.
And want to play. You know what's funny, Andrew, with that match? It's like I think I was also very, very, and I will eat crow here for this one. I remember when that match was booked and they were billing that match. I was not super intrigued in that match because I was one of those spoiled NXT kids who had seen that match or variations of that match happen in NXT 500,000 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way they're going to do anything I have not yet seen them do. And when I watched that match, I ate crow that night. I was like, that was absolutely spectacular. That was incredible. And to this day, I think stands the test of time as one of the best, along with Bianca and Sasha last year.
That was good.
And a couple of other matches as the best all-time women's matches at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I can get by you on that. It really was a great match.
And for mine, mine are very, very simple because I'm old school too. I remember I seen a lot of the WrestleManias live as they happened. My first WrestleMania I got to watch live was WrestleMania 5. So, for me, I am an old man. But number one, and I still say it, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, pound to pound, best to me, the most fun I've ever had watching a wrestling match at WrestleMania. Pete, if I had to rank the WrestleManias, I think WrestleMania 12 just as a card is just amazing. But and Shawn Michaels has made a history of making WrestleMania his show. I really love that Jericho Shawn match from WrestleMania 19. Give me Jericho, give me Shawn Michaels all the time, and the story was perfect build up.
You could probably do a list of just the greatest Shawn WrestleMania matches if you wanted to.
There you go.
It's funny for me too, because I've ever since WrestleMania 31, where Seth Rollins cashed in on that Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match, I haven't been a big fan of what the WrestleManias have been since then. I thought, I was looking back, I was in attendance for WrestleMania 29, and I thought that Undertaker CM Punk match was a lot of fun.
That was another good match.
Yeah, I thought
kind of forgotten.
Yeah, that's definitely a forgotten match. If I have to pick another match,
that's all the Undertaker matches they usually enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they're there. They're all there.
Edge and Taker from
another great match. Yeah.
Yep.
I hate to keep putting a lot of Sean in there, and like there's so many different to choose from. But I remember watching it at the time, just being so enthralled by it. Was Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, WrestleMania 21.
I was about to say, I was like, you said Sean Jericho, and I was like, I'll raise you Sean Angle.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you just watch that and just go, oh my Lord. Like, because the minute you watch that match, you're like, this is better than what the main events are going to be, the 2 title matches. This is what's going to be better than that. And look, we talked about 17 and 18. Again, 17 was such a complete show. I got to give the tag team some love, and the TLC match from WrestleMania 17. The Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. You're like, how can they raise the bar from what they did the summer before? And when you just have Jeff Hardy just sort of dangling there, and you just have Edge just do a spear from the top of the ladder, let's just do that. And I'm like, you're sitting there saying how he volunteered to do that shit. You're just sitting there like, oh my God. Like
sometimes the thing these guys do with stuff, like when was it Joey Mercury got smashed in the face with a ladder?
Yeah.
And like some of those moments.
Took that.
There was one where Hardcore Holly landed on a table and the table didn't break the right way. He got a huge gash on his back. I'm like, you guys like willingly to just do this to yourselves with like these, anything can happen to you, and it's just like they do it for us, and it's great, but at the same time it's like there's some cringeworthy stuff there.
The PSAs that they used to put in front of like the on the DVDs in like 2000s, mid 2000s, they were like, we're professionals, don't try this at home. And it was just the spots like that where Holly got his back broken, someone's busted open bleeding, and they're like, we're trained professionals, don't do this at home.
We used to joke about it every time, like we'd have our pay-per-view parties, and try this film, and they're like, everybody comes to my house to
go to a friend's house. That's the classic joke.
Those classic moments at WrestleMania, especially like those more death-defying moments, like you got to think of like 22 with Edge and Foley.
Yeah, that was took it right out of my mouth. So good
to come back, the flaming table spot.
I was gonna say that was the flaming table, right?
Yeah, and then think about it. What was it? A year prior at 21 that Edge had won the first Money in the Bank, and so this was the beginning of that rise of Edge. And I'm very interested to see what Randy says for like his last couple of matches, because there's one that I'm really upset just popped up from the recesses of my mind that I'm like, wow, how did I forget that? But I want to see if Randy ends up mentioning it.
Well, I'm going to quickly just go through some old school stuff too, because you have WrestleMania 10, obviously Shawn and Razor, and then Bret Hart and Owen Hart.
Thank you.
And then, I also love WrestleMania 8, where you had Piper and Bret and Macho Man and Ric Flair. It's like that. And then you also had WrestleMania 7 with Warrior and Savage, and then Warrior Hogan at 6, and Hogan and Savage at 5. Like Hogan and Savage at 5 to me was the first main event I ever got to watch. And that story, that year-long Mega Power story, oh my God, that was the most profitable time at that point in time. Like WrestleMania, like it took a dip until Austin got there. WrestleMania 5 was the highest grossing WrestleMania that they did, but the ratings and everything else dipped until WrestleMania 14. So that's a very sort of scary number, isn't it?
I wonder if like that could even that amount of time in today's product. Like, could you do the Mega Powers story in 2022?
It would be done in 2 months.
Have it last
2 months.
And have it last right. And have it last a year.
No.
Last year, have the people invested in it throughout the entire run of the story.
I can't see that lasting.
Mm-hmm. Who would be the people involved in the storyline? Would it be? I mean,
that too.
Is it
like
Roman Reigns and like Brock Lesnar as the tag team champions? Like, and they go crazy and they go banana lands. They tear through the whole division, and then all of a sudden at Mania next year we get Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns again.
So they're not on the same level. They're not on the same level, but the only duo that I can see actually having the emotional investment would be the New Day. It won't happen because I know those three men want to work together for the rest of their lives.
I've waited years for that.
But
I'm still.
if you had a Kofi, and Kofi and Big E would have to be the story, but if you had one of them kind of turning on the other and you built that story going. But yeah, there's no one on the level of, also when you think about it, like Savage and Hogan, two guys respectively, 1A and 1B at the top of the company, and their stars are crossing in such a way where neither of them looked weak. Both of them came out of that feud both shiny as all be.
Expecting a New Day triple threat. Here, Kofi Kingston won the heavyweight championship. I was like, oh, this could be really cool. And then 2 months later, he drops it to. He didn't even have a run. He just had like a world title walk in the park.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed about that.
I think everybody was, but I think
I really wanted to have like a run and then they were just like, nope, sorry, and I was like, why?
They
like,
just wanted to give him a moment. Yeah, that was a shame.
I still wanted Drew McIntyre to have the belt longer than he had it too, but
I think we need to do a second show with just fantasy booking, and I think we'll probably do it.
There we go.
That'd be a lot of fun. Pete Rosado, Andrew Fiume, Alyssa, thank you guys so much. This is a lot of fun for the Cut Pro Wrestling podcast. Totally changing up the format a little bit and sort of doing a round table. It is WrestleMania weekend, and guys, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's always fun talking wrestling.
Anytime.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be right back here on the Cut Pro Wrestling podcast.